A lot of people face horrifying situations in their life which they can never forget. More often than not, these situations induce a fear, especially of getting trapped in closed locations. If you watch such scenes in a survival or action movie, you may experience a sinking feeling in your gut. Recovering from a panicky feeling induced by a movie is easy, but in real life, people have been through terrible experiences of getting stuck in very constricted places. This may include individuals trapped below an immense block of ice in an Alaskan River, and many more astonishing incidents. Today we'll share a few of the most claustrophobic incidents to ever have occurred. But before we get started, be sure to hit the like button, subscribe, and click the notification bell for more such amazing content. Midnight Toilet Trip. Even though the urge to visit a toilet at midnight is most irritating, it saved a precious life in May 2013. Harrison Objigabar-Okeni, 29 years old, was serving as a cook on one of 3 tugboats that were towing a Chevron oil tanker off the coast of Nigeria. At 5 a.m. he woke up and headed to the shared bathroom located at the end of the corridor. At that very moment, a gigantic wave capsized the tugboat and caused it to sink. His unlucky colleagues had locked their rooms to implement protocols for protection from pirates. Once Harrison came into the corridor, he was swept by the gushing water into another toilet having an air pocket. He clung to an overturned basin for keeping his head above the water surface. Meanwhile, the tugboat sunk about 100 feet deep into the ocean. Divers immediately arrived at the scene of the accident but had to return. Exhausted, Harrison spent a complete day in the bathroom and eventually decided to make a last-ditch effort for his survival. He swam through the pitch dark to the nearby engineer's office. There he found another air pocket and he managed to stand on his feet. He was facing unbearable thirst and hunger. Meanwhile, a team of divers deployed by a dive support vessel, the Luik Toucan, reached the wreck and found Harrison alive. As per scientists, Harrison's 216 cubic feet air pocket was to have only sufficient oxygen to survive for 2.5 days, whereas he had been there for 3. At the time of rescue, he was suffering from casein disease. In this condition, nitrogen bubbles are formed in the blood due to drastic changes experienced in the pressure. If he'd been brought directly above the surface, these bubbles could have disrupted his vital functions. Therefore, he was brought up slowly in a diving bell and subsequently kept in a decompression chamber for 2 days. Soon, he was fully recovered and returned to his home in Warri in Nigeria. Team building exercise. In June 2018, Wild Boars, a young soccer team from a village in Mae Sai district in Thailand, moved to a nearby long cave where traditionally the new team members were to inscribe their names on a wall inside. The team, consisting of 12 boys and their assistant coach, ventured into the cave. When they failed to return home until late in the evening, their families rushed straight to the cave. Seeing the bikes parked to the entrance of the cave, they immediately contacted authorities for help. Due to the sudden monsoon downpour, the rain caused a flash flood and the complete cave was rapidly filled with water, rendering the entrance inaccessible. Therefore, the team moved deeper into the cave and finally settled on a narrow rocky shelf, about 2.5 miles away from the entrance. Luckily, moisture on the walls provided them with drinking water, although they had to bear the hunger. Meanwhile, an elaborate rescue mission comprising Thai Navy SEALs, National Police, and local volunteers commenced. Engineers' efforts to pump out the water did not bear fruit due to the rising level of floodwater. The first international rescue team, having representation from different nations, included the UK, Belgium and Australia, arrived on the scene on the 6th day of the incident. Over a week after the incident, the divers eventually managed to reach a cavern where they could walk. 2 divers suddenly encountered an air pocket. They removed their masks. Unfortunately, they saw all 13 members of the Wild Boars alive. They left some light with the team and promised to bring some food for them. Meanwhile, the situation started deteriorating as the oxygen level in the cave fell from 21% to 15%. After deliberately practicing extraction training methods, about 100 Thai and foreign divers commenced the operation. Guide ropes were put in place and eventually each trapped person was attached with a professional diver and also provided with a diving mask along with oxygen. They were secured in the stretchers guided by comprehensive pulley systems through waters of varying depths throughout the cavern. One by one, each wild boar was evacuated from the cave. They were immediately given oxygen and shifted to a hospital in Chiang Rai in northern Thailand. During the rescue operation, 2 divers lost their lives. Down the rabbit hole. On 14th of October 1987, Jessica McClure, an 18-month-old girl, while running around in her aunt's backyard in Midland, Texas, accidentally fell into a rabbit hole. Jessica, along with her 4 sisters, were playing while supervised by her mother Sissy, who went inside for just a few moments. Meanwhile, Jessica tumbled down straight into an 8-inch wide and 22-foot deep well, which her aunt had covered with a sizable rock. Jessica was lodged halfway to the narrow point of the well. On return, frightened Sissy could not help her daughter and called for help. Rescuers had to continuously work for 58 hours to free her. They used oil drillers for digging 20 feet deep and 30-inch wide holes parallel to the well. Subsequently, an engineer drilled a horizontal tunnel to connect the 2 holes by using high-pressure drill equipment. Eventually, Jessica was successfully evacuated. Unfortunately, she lost one of her toes due to complications caused by loss of blood circulation. She came to know about the incident once she was 5 years old and watched it on a TV show, her being rescued by Rescue 911. In the money. On a Saturday in September 2013, a 91-year-old French woman from Rennes was busy in her daily routine. She went to the nearest BNP Paribas bank to see her safety deposit box. She entered the vault, and as per the standard procedure, the bank employee locked the door behind her. At the end of the day, the same bank employee unwittingly turned out the lights and departed from the bank without checking on the lady. She could not communicate with anyone as she didn't even have a cell phone and had to sit tight in the dark till Monday. Fortunately, her son got worried once he did not receive a call from her on Saturday evening and contacted police who, while tracing the lady's steps and searching at all her favourite locations, finally reached the bank. Despite frantic calls, the bank manager arrived there at 10 a.m. on Sunday. The lady was lucky to have suffered not much more than dehydration. Close Shave Cave. In April 2017, Cisco Gracia, a geology teacher, and his companion Guillem Mascaro dived into the Mallorca's crystal clear water. They planned to explore a cave named Sa Piqueta, located at the eastern coast of Mallorca, and believed to have numerous submerged chambers extending from the entrance. They swam for almost an hour and probably had moved 1 kilometer deep into the labyrinth. Suddenly, they realized that their guideline, a nylon wire, had broken, and they could not trace it. Meanwhile, their oxygen tanks were almost empty. Fortunately, Cisco remembered an air pocket in a chamber in the vicinity and led his colleague to it. They swiftly planned their exit route on their map. However, at this stage, their oxygen could suffice for only 1. Therefore, Cisco stayed behind and asked Guillem to escape. Cisco got rid of his equipment and moved to the surface, where he found the water drinkable and also a big black rock that he could pull himself onto. 7 to 8 hours lapsed and oxygen there was depleting rapidly. He soon suffered the effects of breathing in high levels of carbon dioxide. Eventually, Cisco heard a noise above him, which kindled hope in him, but it proved to be an hallucination. Meanwhile, a diver emerged from the water and rescued him. He was astonished to know that he had spent almost 60 hours in the chamber. Trip of a lifetime. 38-year-old Blake Stanfield planned a surprise raft trip down Koyukuk River in Alaska for his father Neil's 65th birthday. On Friday, 6th of June 2003, they started their 90 miles, a week-long journey to the town of Battles. Soon they found ice sheets clinging to both sides of the river. On a bend, they encountered a shelf of ice blocking the passage. Their boat slammed into the ice and capsized. Soon they were trapped under the freezing rock-hard slab of ice. Fortunately, the ice abruptly cleared and Blake rushed to the nearest bank and moved down to the shoreline to search for his father, who was stuck with a slab of ice. Eventually, he managed to rescue his father. They walked along the river till they reached a dry gully having fallen trees across it, which provided them secure shelter. At 10:30 the next morning, Blake set out to find help while walking through treacherous Alaskan terrain. Meanwhile, Neil suffered bad luck as a rudimentary campfire set for warmth had blazed the shelter. The next morning, Blake reached an elevated region in the river. They helplessly spent 5 days waiting, and ultimately a bush pilot incidentally saw their raft and took a low flight to search for them. Finally, he noticed Blake, who was waving his life vest, and in about 4 hours' time, the helicopter rescued both the men from their respective locations. Now, after this absolutely terrifying experience, the two men should have abandoned any thought of ever taking another raft trip, but even this near-death experience couldn't faze the father-son duo. Pretty soon, they went back for another raft trip on the Koyukuk, but thankfully this time, they managed to stay together and safe. Burglary gone wrong. In March 2011, on a routine evening, John Risco, the general manager, received a call from his boss. The owner of Pison's Pizza Palace, located in Guilderland, New York, asked him to go and check a fire alarm that had been triggered. John was surprised to see a burglar in the restaurant. 46-year-old Timothy Cipriani was wedged in a shaft above the stove, while only his leg was dangling outside. Probably, Timothy climbed a tree onto the roof and entered into the air duct and got stuck. While struggling, he stepped on a pipe that formed part of the fire suppression system, which triggered the alarm. Police spent about 30 minutes freeing Timothy and then arrested him. His record showed that he had earlier been charged for breaking into another New York restaurant, El Rey Cuchifrito. Well, that's one stupid burglar. Turns out even successful execution of crime needs qualified individuals. The Nutty Putty extraction. Over a Thanksgiving in 2009, John Edward Jones, a 26-year-old medical student and fond cave explorer, planned to go spelunking with his friends in Utah County. On 24th of November, they proceeded to a famous spelunking spot, Nutty Putty Cave. John decided to venture into the area known as Birth Canal, which was extremely winding, but he went in a different tunnel. He was stuck upside down and he was wedged tightly and couldn't even breathe. Finally, rescuers from Utah County Sheriff's Office carried out a complicated extraction operation. They succeeded in partially freeing him with the help of a rope pulley system. By this time, John had been hanging upside down for 8 hours. He was given an IV drip and lifted into the comparatively broader crack. As it became more eminent that he would not be able to make it, John was given the opportunity to speak to his wife over the radio and say goodbye. The rescue mission hadn't failed completely, but then some kind of malfunction occurred and the rope system gave way, plunging John again into the same gap. The rescuers used air-powered tools to chip away at the rock around him. After remaining upside down for 24 hours, his body experienced extreme pressure and he became unresponsive. The doctor confirmed his death due to cardiac arrest. Finally, it was decided to leave John there forever and concrete was poured into the tunnel. What a tragedy. Have you ever experienced anything of the sort? Do share with us in the comments section. We'll be back soon with another mind-boggling video for you guys, so until then, take care and don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.